Jody Avirgan here. I'm glad you're enjoying 30 for 30 podcast, part of a special collection of sports audio documentaries from ESPN Films. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the Mini Countryman, the biggest mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. Podcast equipment isn't very bulky, but even if we're hauling a lot of gear, there's plenty of cargo space for all your stuff. And if a few of our producers tag along, no problem. The Mini Countryman comfortably seats 5 adults. The Countryman may be big, but it still drives like a Mini thanks to the twin-power turbo engine. No matter what story you're chasing, the Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts. Visit miniusa.com/countryman today.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA. And, of course, nationwide over the airwaves of Sirius XM. ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Got a jam-packed show coming at you today. It is Thanksgiving Eve. There will be games, football games, tomorrow. Taking place. There obviously will be NFL games this weekend. R.J. Bell, our resident handicapper, the founder for pregame.com, he'll be on the show with us to handicap those games Vegas style. Definitely looking forward to that. Got some NBA action to get into. Big game in Oklahoma City tonight. Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, and, of course, the reigning league MVP, Russell Westbrook, is getting set to host the reigning defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors. Question marks as to whether or not Kevin Durant will be available due to that sore sprained ankle. But everyone's anticipating he will play. And as a result, it'll be interesting to see what kind of game any of us anticipate from one or the other, and how much pressure is it on Melo and Paul George, even this early in the season, to step up and show up and let everybody know, put everybody on notice that they indeed are in Oklahoma City to legitimately threaten and compete for an NBA championship. We'll get into that as the show progresses. But the first order of business to get into, unfortunately, is our president. President of the United States of America. His name would happen to be Donald Trump. Yes, he went after LaVar Ball, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the more important thing he did was go after the NFL and Commissioner Roger Goodell specifically. Basically, Trump bashed a plan that he was hearing about that would keep NFL teams in the locker room during the national anthem, saying, quote, it's almost as bad as kneeling. This was his exact tweet. The NFL is now thinking about a new idea, keeping teams in the locker room during the national anthem next season. That's almost as bad as kneeling. When will the highly paid commissioner finally get tough and smart? This issue is killing your league. There's a few things that Donald Trump, President Trump, left out of that little soliloquy, diatribe, or whatever way you want to label it. A, there have been plenty of teams that have stayed in the locker room during the national anthem. It's something that happened religiously in the world of sports prior to 2009. The reason why I bring up 2009 is because that's when the Defense Department of the United States of America was actually paying the NFL, because they wanted the National Football League to engage in what Senator John McCain described best as paid patriotism. Paid patriotism. And as a result, because of it, the NFL had folks out there standing for the national anthem, et cetera, military planes or jets, rather, flying over a stadium while a Star-Spangled Banner was being played. All of this other stuff, building patriotism. Obviously, it assists in recruitments. It also engages the American citizen in a way that elevates the level of patriotism that one would feel. Now, we can have an argument or a discussion or a debate about the difference between nationalism and patriotism, as Stan Van Gundy did in his article in a Players Tribune, a coach of the Detroit Pistons, when he talked about how Dr. Michael Eric Dyson came to talk to his team and defined the difference between the two. And Stan Van Gundy came to the defense of all of these players protesting and kneeling. And by the way, it's not a national anthem protest. It's a civil rights protest during the national anthem. There's a difference. There's difference in words. There's difference in the power of those words. And that's exactly what needs to be said, which is something the president has religiously failed to do. Having said all of that, however, he is clearly still on the attack as it pertains to the National Football League. Now, there's various tentacles to this, okay? Number one, the president, one could argue, is being a bit evasive and deflective, because by talking about something like this and making news off of something like this, less news is made of his position regarding Roy Moore, who's running for the Senate seat out of Alabama, who has been accused of sexual abuse, particularly as it pertains to children. The president is on the record refusing to condemn him, saying, excuse me, he's categorically denied these things. There's no evidence. There's no proof. Blah, 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 blah. I'm taking no position on that. That's not my lane. The other side to this is President Trump going after the National Football League. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this on many occasions. I'm going to say it again. The president is on a vendetta trip. He wanted to own an NFL team. He was willing, as a former owner for the USFL, to coax other owners out of the USFL to sue the National Football League, believing that he was either going to get paid an exorbitant amount of money or that the NFL would fold and let some of those guys own NFL teams so they could become a part of the good old boys club. That is NFL owners. It didn't work out that way. He ended up winning a grand total of $3. $3, literally, no exaggeration. Then in 2014, he wanted to purchase the Buffalo Bills. But when he wanted to purchase the Buffalo Bills, owners and the commissioner got in his way. And it was when they got in his way and refused to co-sign him coming on board as an owner that Donald Trump decided to run for the presidency of the United States. Now, you can look at it you can look at that two ways. You can look at it as, he didn't have that toy to play with, so I guess he decided to run for the president. Or you can look at it as, if the NFL owners had let him in their good old boys club, Donald Trump would have never ran for president. And because he would have never ran for president, we wouldn't be dealing with what we're dealing with today. Which brings us to LaVar Ball, because when we talk about dealing with what we're dealing with today, we're talking about childish behavior on the part of adults. I contend that LaVar Ball still should have apologized. I'm sorry, not apologized, said thank you. He should have said thank you. I don't care what role Donald Trump played in getting his son and those two other teammates out of UCLA released by authorities in China. Even though they weren't in jail, they weren't in a hotel, they still were under the jurisdiction of the Chinese law enforcement regime. And the reality is, because they were stealing from Louis Vuitton stores, committing a crime, they could have been severely punished. Whatever role, no matter how small nor big it may have been, it should not be much for LaVar Ball to say thank you. Because clearly the president played some kind of role. He clearly did that. All right? But at the same time, the president doesn't need to be this petty. He doesn't need to be 71 years old acting like 17. Listen to this tweet that he sent to LaVar Ball about Ball's son, LeAngelo. Quote, "It wasn't the White House. It wasn't the State Department. It wasn't Father LaVar's so-called people on the ground in China that got his son out of a long-term prison sentence. It was me. It was me, in caps. Too bad. LaVar is just a poor man's version of Don King, but without the hair. Just think, LaVar, you could have spent the next 5 to 10 years during Thanksgiving with your son in China, but no NBA contract to support you. But remember, LaVar, shoplifting is not a little thing. It's a really big deal, especially in China. Ungrateful fool. Really, Mr. President? Really? 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. I'll elaborate on my problems with that latest tweet and then some in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
When I sit up here and I talk about these things, I get annoyed because I got a few things on my mind. For example, Chip Kelly being interviewed by UCLA. That's something I want to talk about. New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets. Actually, well, I mean, I'm proud of them. They actually have 6 wins on the season. I didn't think they'd get that much. I wanted to get for those ridiculous tears Lincoln Riley, the head coach for Oklahoma, displayed because, oh my Lord, he wasn't starting Baker Mayfield for the game. I mean, you're going to sit down for about 3 minutes and then you'll be out on the field. But because you're not starting and you don't have the seat for captain on your jersey for that particular game, I mean, stop the presses. The coach sat up there and just crying like a little baby. You got to be kidding me. I mean, it was just hilarious. I mean, was it me? I don't mean to come across as insensitive, but my God. Anyway, I'll get to all of that a little bit later on in the show, but back to this Trump fiasco situation. First of all, let me say this. I'm going to read his tweets about LaVar Ball again. Quote, it wasn't the White House, it wasn't the State Department, it wasn't Father LaVar's so-called people on the ground in China that got his son out of a long-term prison sentence. It was me. Too bad. LaVar is just a poor man's version of Don King, but without the hair. Just think, LaVar, you could have spent the next 5 to 10 years doing Thanksgiving with your son in China, but no NBA contract to support you. But remember, LaVar, shoplifting is not a little thing. It's a really big thing, especially in China. Ungrateful fool. First of all, he's a father, not a fool. That's number one. Very disrespectful for the president to say that. Number two, you talked about no NBA contract to support you. Lonzo is the one in the NBA. LiAngelo's a college student. I guess Trump forgot that Lonzo, his oldest son, was in the NBA already, playing for the Lakers. That's point number two. Point number three, poor man version of Don King just without the hair. So you dissing him now? But you had no problem hugging Don King and telling you how much you love him because Don King was supporting you for the presidency. He's somebody who supported you, campaigned for you. So LaVar Ball being a poor man's version of Don King, are you giving him a compliment? That's point number three. And I just think ultimately, and then he says, listen, he's just talking in this tweet. It's just not good. It's beneath the presidency. But what else is new? 866-729-3776. That's 866-ESPN. Speaking of LaVar, Luke Walton had to check him because he was telling the Lakers they need to stop being too soft on his son. Get on him. Push him hard. Show him some tough love, et cetera, et cetera. And Luke Walton basically came back, I'm paraphrasing here, we're not concerned about anybody's parents telling us how to coach or run this team. I think LaVar Ball should have shut his mouth. He shouldn't have said that. But I will acknowledge this. There is no doubt that he has insight to his son that the Lakers are devoid of at this particular moment in time. And it might behoove Luke Walton to listen Because LaVar Ball might have a point about his son Lonzo. He just might have a point. 866-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. To the phones we go. Let's go to Karim in Manhattan. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Stephen A? Long time listener, first time caller, man.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
I just want to speak on LaVar Ball real quick. I listened to the whole interview, and it seemed like his main story was, listen, I was there. This guy didn't speak to me. I didn't hear anything except for words that people said. So I don't think that he believes that the president did anything for him, and he just doesn't want to be disrespectful and come out and say it. So I think that you're being pretty hard on him by saying that he should tell him thank you, because LaVar Ball is a man that
Stop right there. Do you have children? Do you have children, Karim?
I'm sorry, no, sir.
You don't have children? Okay. You have parents who are living?
No, sir.
You do not?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. I got your point. I appreciate the call. Thank you. My point was going to be, if you were a parent or you were a child with living parents and you committed a criminal act and anybody assisted in getting you off, I think a thank you is not too much to ask for. It's not a big deal at the end of the day. All true. But it's not that big of a deal to ask for. And I think that's important to point out. That's all. Terrence in the Bronx, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Steve. Hey, let me get right to the point. This Trump thing has really got me upset. LaVar Ball knows who the president is. He knows what type of person, you know, I know, we know this guy's a racist. And then for him to want LaVar Ball to thank him, well, who's next? This guy's going to ask everybody to thank him. The school thanked him. Then he got on the kids about thanking him. The kids finally thanked him. Now he's asking for the parents to thank him. LaVar knows this guy's a racist, knows this guy's been mistreating NFL players because they're black, and then he's talking to his base. The only thing he's doing is diverting everything from the tax plan he's got and all the things you mentioned. But what he's really trying to do is trying to defer to his base, because he knows at the end of the day, they call the flag this, the flag that. But it's not about the flag. It's about the social injustice. But he knows his base only cares about that. So you know what? I have kids, and there's no way I would to that guy. I would say, son is an adult. A kid could go to war at this age right now. You know, so you know what?
Well, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you, Terrence. I respect where you're coming from. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
But I can tell by what you're saying, and stay with me. I don't mean this in an incriminating fashion, but I can tell by how you sound that you're lying. And let me explain to you why I believe that you're lying. Because you come across as incredibly decent, incredibly conscientious, and obviously informed to a large degree. So what I'm betting is that you would have the intellect to step forward if your child was to commit a crime and obviously caused an international furor to the point where you don't know what level of assistance you needed to receive in order to get them home. Even if you felt this way about your president, you would sit up there and articulate, I don't like the man too much. I think this, I think this, I think that. But on this particular issue, I have to say thanks. I think that's what you would do, Terrence.
Okay, look, I understand what you're saying, and I do have children, and I've actually been in that situation on the other side with my parents, something that I was wrongly accused about, and they came and they did everything in power to make sure that I was safe, and I was vindicated.
Yeah, but you do see what I'm saying to you. In other words, I'm not saying that you wouldn't feel the way that you're feeling. I'm not saying that you wouldn't say what you would say, but you wouldn't confuse that with being grateful for this one particular incident. That's all I mean by that.
No, I wouldn't do it. You know why? The way he treated that Gold Star sister with her husband and with that phone that the senator lady had heard. He's been disrespectful to everybody. He never apologized.
Yeah, he's been disrespectful. But by the way, if you're going to sit up there and say that, then you don't need to bring up race, because the fact of the matter is he's been disrespectful to people of all ethnicities. I mean, every time he opens his mouth, he's been disrespectful towards somebody. So they ain't got nothing to do with just black folk. That's everybody.
You're absolutely right, Stephen. You know what? The right thing to do, and you're a good brother, the right thing to do is to say thank you. But you know what? This guy has done so much. But I wouldn't have done it for him because this guy's done so much.
It's not for him. But it's not for him. It's not for him. That's the point. That's the lesson that I'm trying to say, that we have to teach one another. It's not about him. It's about your core decency. Everybody's wrong doesn't make you right, particularly if you mimic their wrongs. Just because he's that way and just because he chooses to conduct himself that way. The reason why so many of us are appalled by the behavior that we're witnessing from him is because we know right from wrong. We know what's better, not just for ourselves, but for our society. And we know we would do better. And what I'm saying to you, Terrence, is I believe you would do better in spite of what you believe and knowing your truth to be about him. I believe you would do better because you're not going to be like him just because he would be that way. That's all I'm saying.
Same, my brother.
I got you, man. I appreciate the call, but thank you. And call back anytime. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-SAY-ESPN. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Got some games to get into as well. In a minute, you're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Couple of things on my mind before I get to some of these games and back to Donald Trump raising Cain on Twitter. Karan J. Phillips, columnist at the New York Daily News, wrote a very, very interesting column today. Wrote a good column talking about how Baker Mayfield shouldn't apologize to anybody. I mean, listen, I was focused on Lincoln Riley, the coach, and his tears. I mean, I thought they were utterly ridiculous. Mayfield obviously a little embarrassed. Excuse me. Karan J. Phillips is basically saying he shouldn't have apologized to anybody. He was taking cheap shots from Kansas. He told the fans, in response, stick to, they were taunting him. They were, spewing vitriol in his direction and all of this other stuff. And he told them, y'all need to stick to basketball. Karan J. Phillips had a point. He said, the guy has a point. Since 2010, Kansas football team is 15-80. And oh, by the way, Oklahoma beat them 41-3. So they were giving him cheap shots along the way. He grabbed his crotch, screamed F you at them. Shouldn't have done that. Got caught on national TV doing it. Apologize and move on. That's a good point, though. Kansas football team, 15-80. Yeah, you say stick to basketball. That's a damn good point. It's true. This Kansas football program ain't much, but we know Bill Self and how he has that Kansas basketball program. So Baker Mayfield kind of knows what he's talking about in that regard. That's number one. Number two, Chip Kelly apparently has the choice, a decision between UCLA and Florida. It's amazing, isn't it? He leaves Oregon, goes to Philadelphia, stinks up the joint. Had a good year. 1 year they made the playoffs, they lost. But, ultimately how he dealt with players and, how players were not feeling him at all. The brothers didn't feel he was comfortable around them, all of that kind of stuff. Then he goes to San Francisco. I mean, he gets unceremoniously dismissed by Jeffrey Lurie, ends up in San Francisco, y'all. Goes to San Francisco. By the way, before he had a chance to pass gas, this dude had a $6 million a year contract in San Francisco. And thank God Trent Baalke and him were booted out the door at the same time after 1 year. And now, this season, he's been out of the NFL, and you got these college programs willing to let him go into somebody's living room and represent them. So be it. He's clearly innovative offensively. He did have success at Oregon in college football. But I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Chip Kelly took the UCLA job. You know why? Because it's easier. Pac-12 ain't quite the SEC, is it? Having to go up against Nick Saban eventually ain't quite that easy, is it? Because you see Nick Saban, this man, who walked into this season with a 42-10 record in the SEC, a conference that has had 36 full-time coaches since Nick Saban arrived in Alabama, because everybody's trying to beat him and nobody can. Not in that conference. Chip Kelly don't want a piece of that. Watch it. Y'all bet. I'll bet you. I bet you Chip Kelly going to end up taking UCLA job. And it ain't just because of the palm trees in L.A. He don't want to go up against no Nick Saban. He don't want a piece of that. He don't want a piece of that. Trust me. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-SAY-ESPN. One of the other things we need to get into, big-time game tonight. Oklahoma City against Golden State. It's not a big-time game for Golden State, but it is a big-time game for Oklahoma City. They're 7-9. If the players were to start this year, they wouldn't be in it. Carmelo, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, that experiment ain't quite working yet. One would argue it's because a lot of hero ball going on, where they get together and it's like, all right, I scored, now it's your turn, instead of having fluidity within your offense, playing within yourselves and just feeding off of the offense to let you get going. I'm going to put that on Billy Donovan. He's a 2-time national championship coach at Florida. You know, you coach these guys to within one game of the NBA Finals 2 years ago. The Oklahoma City Thunder, when you had Kevin Durant and Westbrook. I'm sorry, Billy Donovan, but it's time to step up. The defense is looking good. You got to get this offense flowing in the right direction, and then we'll see what Russell Westbrook and the rest of the team is going to do. I'm looking at Carmelo Anthony, too. Don't get it twisted. Paul George has been to 2 conference finals. Russell Westbrook has been to 4. Carmelo Anthony went to 1, and that was more than 7 years ago. I need to see more. We all need to see more. Because we want Carmelo Anthony in a big-time situation where we can get an opportunity to watch him shine with significant stuff on the line instead of playing in a bunch of meaningless games for the New York Knicks. That's what we need to see from him. At least that's how I'm looking at it. 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Back to the calls we go. Let's go to Matt in Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's up, Stephen A? It's my first time on the show. I really like the show.
Thank you.
I just want to make the point that if the Thunder keep doing bad like this, and that just makes Carmelo look really bad, because now you have a situation where he left the Knicks and they're doing good, and now he goes to the Thunder, which is stacked with Westbrook and Paul George and whoever else, and they have a losing record. They're not even going to make the playoffs.
Well, listen, Oklahoma City's going to the playoffs. Ain't no way in hell they missing the playoffs. I promise you that. Carmelo and Russell Westbrook and Paul George will get it together. Russell Westbrook just needs to be the ringleader. There has to be an alpha dog in any talent-laden position or positions. There has to be an alpha dog. There has to be somebody that everything goes through. You know, I don't give a damn what job it is. You have to have that.
But doesn't this make Carmelo look really bad? Because the Knicks
if it keeps going like this, yes, you're right. If the Knicks keep winning, looking respectable and better without him, and Oklahoma City is looking worse this year, yes, it's going to be a very bad look for Carmelo Anthony. I just think it's too early to tell.
And last thing, this whole thing, that the fact that the Knicks have a winning record right now, that makes Phil Jackson look horrible, right?
No, it doesn't. Not yet. And the reason why it does not make him look horrible as of yet, first of all, a lot of these players are the guys that he had on the team. That's number one. Number two, there have been plenty of times when Phil Jackson was here, or at least a couple of times, when the team started out well before nosediving. So the jury is still out on that as of yet. What makes Phil look bad is how Phil dogged Carmelo and how he didn't do his job as president because he was never around to do anything. And he left Carmelo as the team spokesperson when he should have been that guy. That's the problem.
Thanks, man. You can tell Max Kellerman tomorrow morning that a Columbia student called his alma mater.
Okay. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Let's go to Oscar in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Oscar.
Hey, what's up, Stephen A. Smith? Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you to you and yours as well. God bless.
Hey, I think we're losing the middle ground. I mean, LaVar Ball could be, he's just wrong for this. It's very easy to say thank you, and you can hate the president, you can hate everything that he does or whatever, but to just not be able to say thank you, Mr. President, this one time, I mean, it doesn't hurt nobody. And the other thing is, if you were Chinese, Stephen A., and you were covering the story of these college kids coming into your country and stealing something, I mean, what would you say about them? I just think it's just so foolish of them to actually go into a country, disrespect the laws there, and just.
Well, listen, we all know it's foolish.
Like
we all know it's foolish. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Of course we know it's foolish. Of course we know they had no business doing what they were doing, and they should be punished. Fair enough. But if you're Lonzo Ball and you're walking into the arena last night with your little brother who could have been in jail in China, you're happy to see him. He is your little brother. It was petty theft. He should not have done it. He was wrong. But you also got to show your little brother some love. And that was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. Okay? And if you're the dad, yeah, you need to show some gratitude and you need to say thank you. Because you are very fortunate. You and your family are very lucky that this didn't end up being more serious for him than it actually was. But he still did wrong. You say you're thankful and you move forward and you do everything you can to correct that kind of behavior. That's all we can say. It's really all that's appropriate to say, believe it or not. 866-SAY-ESPN. Back with more of your calls in a minute before R.J. Bell comes on in hour number 2. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's get right back to the phones at 866-SAY-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to my man Mike. You're live at Stephen A. Talk to me, Mike. What's going on, big baby? Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you and your family. Get right to it. LaVar Ball and Donald Trump, they both need to cut that mess out, man. LaVar Ball know he need to say thank you. Because anytime your son get in trouble or your daughter, however they get out, even if the man ain't telling the truth, just say thank you that your son home. Because it could have been way worse than what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
You know, on that point. Then tonight going to be a real good game. And like you said, not so much for Golden State, but to really see what Oklahoma City is. It's still young, but tonight could be a statement game if Golden State go in there and, blow them out. And then, they really going to have to,
I'm going to tell you, Mike, what else is on my mind. I'm going to tell you what else is on my mind. I think Boston's 16-game winning streak going to come to an end tonight in Miami. I think Miami's got a shot. I think Miami's got a shot to stop Kyrie Irving and those boys tonight. Can't win every game.
I'm going to look for that. Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Now, one quick question before we go. Will you be on the show tomorrow? Or I know you're on First Take tomorrow, right?
No. I won't be on the show tomorrow or Friday. Take it easy, man. Thanks a lot. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Let's go to James in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, James? Stephen A. First, I want to say I love your show. Happy Thanksgiving. And
happy Thanksgiving.
Even when I don't agree with you, I always respect your opinion a lot.
Thank you.
On this situation, I feel like this president, when have you ever felt like he's had your back? Or when has he ever stood up and said, you know what, your issues, social or other, are important to me? He's never made me feel like that. And now because he did something we voted him in to do, back up Americans, put us first, we're supposed to bow at his feet. Someone in his office said to him, this would be a great PR thing if you helped this kid.
I agree. You're probably right. And it's not about bowing to his feet. And see, y'all got to understand, I think y'all are looking at things through the wrong prism. I'm looking at it as LaVar Ball should be a grateful father because his son could have been in a world of trouble based on his stupid actions. It's just that simple to me. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with anybody. Anybody that helps your son out of that mess, and no matter the magnitude of their assistance, you should just say thank you. It shouldn't be hard to say thank you. That's all. Nothing more than that.
They both should be conducting themselves differently right now.
I agree.
And I think the president needs to step up and start doing more for Americans. And I think we grow to appreciate and say thank you more.
Well, we know that.
We really felt he had our back. I
I
voted for him and I regret it. I'll admit it. I admit it all the time. I thought he was actually putting our needs and everything that Obama did. I thought he was going to try and continue some of it, put our needs first, help build the economy, have Americans' backs. And he hasn't. And you know what? He should have got this guy out. It's about time he does something for somebody other than himself. That's how I feel.
James, that's a decent point. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Ramez in Long Beach. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Yes, Stephen, I agree a lot regarding with you about LaVar and his ability to be an outstanding father. His most recent interview, I want to say, regarding the Trump situation, two things really stood out for me. Victimless crime, and it's not like my son lied. Now, he's condoning, in a sense, the fact that his son didn't lie against committing the crime. And secondly, victimless crime. Now, the people that were employed at the Louis Vuitton store, do you think that, or the manager for that matter, do you think in some sense that Louis Vuitton may look at those individuals and say, hey, they just disrupted our ability to maintain a safe and secure store. 'Cause
No.
if I'm not mistaken, it was three separate locations, right?
Yeah, but no, I think you're going too far with it. I mean, that's why you have cameras and the whole thing. People try unsavory things all the time. You don't hold an honest, hard-working employee accountable for that. I think that you're going in the wrong direction there.
Okay, but in terms of, him coming to his son's defense, regarding not lying. Well, it's not like my son denied doing
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I mean, you're raising three outstanding kids. We give you that. To the NBA, we give you that. But to say, oh, my son didn't commit this crime. I mean, you're condoning your son to say, well, you had an option to lie, son.
Yeah.
Essentially, you could have said, hey, I didn't do it. I mean, is that how you want to teach you? Is that what you want to do? I mean,
I definitely. Well, listen. You say it that way. Listen, somebody had to shut him up prior to him getting back to the States. Because if you recall, he was wheeling his wife in a wheelchair in China, and his words were, "It's no big deal." And somebody like, whoa. Then you didn't hear from LaVar Ball for a while. Why? Because you don't need to be saying that while your son is still in China. You better shut the hell up until he gets back to the States.
Yeah.
Because China didn't need to hear that, because who knows how they would have reacted. It's a big deal to them.
He's making a lot of noise. I mean, I didn't know the guy a year ago. Now I know him, and his name is on my mind, which is fine. Now I got the president, our president, the leader of the country, acknowledging him. He's just adding more fuel to the fire when he should be worried about other world affairs. He's dealing with a small individual who has too big of an ego, He has too big of an ego that he can't cash in. His son can't cash in the checks right now for the Lakers. I mean, it's a mess, man. I mean, this guy, he's making a mess. I think he's making a mess.
I got you. Calm down. I got you. I heard you loud and clear. You're being a bit redundant. I got you. Appreciate the call, Ramez. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving to you and yours. Listen, Trump sparks that kind of reaction. He absolutely does. So does LaVar in certain respects. Because you got a lot of people that are looking at him. I tell you what I loved that he said yesterday when he was being interviewed by Chris Cuomo. I love the fact that he brought up how his son has never been in trouble before. He's a 4.0 student. I love how he made sure that we know that. And if that is true, that's phenomenal. But it also speaks to his intelligence, which makes you ask the question, where the hell was it when you were in China? So that's how we got to look at it here. Again, thank goodness it's over. Thank goodness LeAngelo is back on state grounds and there's nothing to worry about. But something like that, it better not happen again. And LaVar Ball doesn't need to be acting like it's not a big deal, when in that nation, it's a very big deal. 866-SAY-ESPN, that's 866-729-3776. Hour 2 up next. RJ Bell as well. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.